Well, as any good railway person will know, a railway is not complete unless it is fitted out with some passenger carriages and can take passenger traffic. So in this part of my Mega Marklin review by TrainzXtreme, I'll be looking at my Marklin, as it's supposed to be pronounced with the umlaut on the A, passenger coach collection. So first, before we get onto these spectacular coaches that you can see right in front of you, let's have a look at the packaging and how it's changed over the Now here you can clearly see the contrasting nature of the boxes from yesteryear and from today. Firstly, if you have a look at the ones from yesteryear, not only does Marklin have a different logo, the model railway with the clear system, whatever that means, and the system has all of the advantages logo, which is slightly different to the one we have today. We've also got printed boxes. As you can see, that on the side of the box, we've got this little printed sticker thing. It's kind of a sticker, but it's printed on paper. And we can see that it's got a very basic picture of the item with the item number. Now this here is made of really soft kind of plastic. And if we open up, we can see that the actual parts that hold the engine in place are actually simply made of cardboard. Now, if we fast forward, I'm not sure what date these are, but I think they're before 1991, because as we can see, it says made in Western Germany. So they're before then, but I can't tell you when. If we move on to one from, like 2000s, you can see it's made of a lot tougher plastic. We've got a lot more generic box, very plain. Oh, look, there you go. You can see that there's not a lot of writing on this one compared to the other one. And that we have a sticker once again with, the plain picture of the coach stuck onto the side. So we have some identification. We also have a plastic inside, which doesn't have a lid like the locomotive ones do. And an instruction manual, even not with this carriage, but with another one, of how to install interior lighting. The only problem with this kind of design of box is that because the two coaches, as you can see here, are very similar, and these two coaches are very similar, barring the size of the windows, it's very hard to differentiate which is which. So I actually don't know between this carriage and the other box which one is which, because the picture doesn't differentiate between the size of the windows. In this same sense, the differences between the hobby version of this coach and the professional version of this coach are very minor. And so I don't actually know which one is which is a bit of a problem when you have these kind of generic packaging that's not in colour. However, now let's move on to the Now these are the first ones here. Now these are Trans-Europe Express coaches, which is kind of where this colour scheme kind of comes from, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I have a feeling that's what it was labelled under when I bought it, because these were second-hand off eBay. I mean, they have a few scratches on the top, but, it's a mostly consistent, as you can see some there, silver. And you can see that it's got this really nice, basic, but effective colour scheme of the creamy yellow and the red. We've got all the printings that would be appropriate, and the small writing, as you can see, this one's a bit scratched. But we've got all the printing, etc., that would be appropriate to this kind of era coach. And we can see they roll... Oh, hang on. Focus, come on, buddy, you can do it. There we go. We've got the easy rolling and the old-fashioned Relax kind of couplers, which, as you can see, leave a very large distance between the coaches. Now, these coaches are quite close to their counterparts from today. The main difference is being this skirting area here, the coupling, and if we uncouple, come on, there we go, got there in the end. Uncouple the coaches, we can see that the bogies are of quite a reasonably simple design, and also the same on both of them, and that the detailing that we do have on the bottom of the coach, is relief, but if we turn it like this, you can't really see it, whereas a lot of the more modern Marklin coaches have bits hanging down and stuff like that, as the coach would have done in real life. So now we've had a look at these two old T coaches, who don't really have any faults as such, and actually look quite good with all kinds of railway traffic. Not only, electric and diesel, but also with steam, because of that red colour, which goes really well with the railway colours of the German railway, which of course, as you can see, is the red and the black. And so these are kind of very much all-era coaches. So actually, pretty good for the kind of age that they come from, and would actually have a very high resale value, because I know these older coaches often go for very high amounts on eBay. So let's move on to some modern passenger trains. The first thing to say about these coaches is that they're just really impressive, because they're really quite long, but not only that, they're also quite tall. And so they really just have like this really kind of like imposing feel on them, and just look really, really effective. Now, as you see, the main difference between these ones is that you can see that there's this little like destination sign here is white, whereas this one here is actually like coloured in grey, and this one has 2 second-class compartments, whereas this one has a first-class and a second-class compartment. Apart from that, these coaches are identical as far as I can tell, and have, the features, the more modern features, such as the close coupling, which looks really good. Even when you go around corners, the coaches aren't that far apart and immediately return to being close together, which is really nice, especially for passenger trains. They've got the prototypical, if I can actually get my camera down that low, oh, there we go. They've got the prototypical low floor design, which looks really cool, and makes the stations look really good. And just have really fabulous detailing, and as you can see, interior details of the seats on the inside. If we move to this final wagon, we can see this is no ordinary wagon. It's actually a cab control car. And it's very, once again, well detailed too, even down to the details of the smaller doors, which at first look funny and you think, oh, Marklin's been cheating. But if you look up the prototype, they do actually have smaller doors, although why that is so, I can't explain. However, I have a feeling it has something to do with like how they're lower, because these doors are not over the axles, whereas these doors are, because of such like bike compartments, etc. Now, where this carriage gets really cool is when we get to the back, and we can see that it's actually lighted. And we've got the lighted destination sign, which is the same destination as on the other coaches, which is nice. And so when the train's being pulled, red lamps show. And as soon as you start pushing the train, like so, the lights and lamps go yellow, which is really nice. But also adds the price of this feature. Adds the price of the coach. And so we can see that this adds around $40 to the price of these coaches. Because as we can see, these ones here were about $80 each. For these ones, $80 to $90, depending on where I bought them. And this coach was about $130 as full retail price. So you can see that that module of the lights is actually very expensive. And also, if we listen, has that clicking kind of noise. And that's because that's little resistors that are telling the wheels which way the engine is going, so that it knows whether to have yellow or red lights on. And not only does this not sound appealing, but because of the slider and the long length of the coaches, on some points it has a tendency to short out, which is a bit frustrating because when you start getting a layout this big, it's really hard to remember which points it can and can't go over. So that's the one thing Marklin has to work on, is that, sometimes it goes off and sometimes it doesn't. But it's the kind of thing they have to make sure that every time, almost every time, 9 out of 10 times that it doesn't do that, whereas I'm finding more like 1 in 3 times it's doing that. And so apart from that, these are really good coaches. The only thing is that they are quite expensive, and that you really can't just have 2. I think you really need to have a 3. And I think for some reason 4 is really jumping out at me as like the right number for these coaches, which is a bit of a problem because of their price. Whereas these ones, 2 is perfectly fine. However, now we move from Marklin coaches to some of the no-brander coaches which So these are the no-brander, well not no-brander, not Marklin coaches I've selected, and you can tell that straight away by the different type of couplings that you can see. Often other brands don't have the little, look, if you have a look at this, you can see there's this little kind of like tongue thing on top of the coupling. You can kind of see it, it's a bit hard to see, but there, that little tongue thing on top. Whereas this one simply has the pin. Now this one is clearly of British origin. I can't tell you what kind of coach it actually is, but what I can tell you is that it's actually made by Lima, if you can just kind of see that in the light. Italy. And so I don't actually know what kind of wheelbases this has been fitted with, but I do know that it runs well on the Marklin track, and yeah, it's based on a British prototype. Note that it features the hanging down bits from the bottom that I was talking about earlier that weren't present on another coach. So it's quite a nice coach with a lot of detailing, which surprised me for the second-hand cheap price that I got it. The only issue is the coupling, because it's not Marklin. Sometimes it's a bit of difficulty to couple up. This next coach is actually French design, and if we have a look at the bottom, we can see that it's Jouef, is that how you're supposed to say it? Or Jouef or something, as you can see, and it's made in France, which is nice because it's still, you know, of the European make. As you can see, once again, you can see that there's not the quality of detailing in either of these as there is in these coaches here, for example. But I don't know an age of these, so this could be a bit older. But this car, I'm not really sure what it's meant to be. Maybe like a commuter car or something, because it has like weird like bars on the windows, but I can't say I really know what it is. But despite the fact that these two aren't really meant to go together as such, I think because of their olive green colour, they actually go together pretty well. Now, I don't actually have boxes for these guys because they bought them second hand, but they're still good, you know, to run on branch lines, etc., etc. So overall, I just have to say that these kind of design of coaches are really good for all eras of railway traffic, and look good behind any train, although, you know, they're probably expensive due to their age, and be better off getting the more modern versions of these. These double-decker coaches are a must-have for anyone who's modelling anything after era 3 or 4 and wants to have some like sleek electric or diesel locomotives and maybe a steam locomotive or two pulling these ones. And the added effect of this is, you know, probably worth it for most serious modelers, because I know you can get a hobby version of this which only shows red and doesn't have the changing feature, which comes as part of a set, so it costs less. And the final thing I can say is that if you pick up some coaches that work really well, then good for you. I do have a couple of dud coaches, but there's no point reviewing them because they don't work on Marklin track. So my one piece of advice with other brand coaches is not paying too much for them, and second of all, not expecting them to work 100% with your track, because every make is different, and there is actually a difference between AC wheels and DC wheels, which sounds really stupid, but it's true. And so on that note, I'd like to finish up and say thank you for watching this part of the Mega Marklin review, and I'll see you next time, because that's all we've got time for from TrainzXtreme. Gotcha! Not quite the end of the review, and if you're still watching, thank you very much. These are the two other small wagons that I picked up. This one here, as you can see, is quite old, and is made of the tinplate design. It doesn't say... It says that it's Marklin, made in Germany, sorry. And you can see that... Oh, once it comes back into focus, damn it. It's got the spring design, which is the old-fashioned way of making sure that the couplers stay straight. And it's got the very basic kind of design. And then we come over here to this plastic model here, which has got a lot more detailing, but doesn't have a brand. I paid $20 for, and originally also had this. And these two together, once again, despite being different, still run quite nicely as a pair on little branch lines. I would recommend these kind of coaches for beginning railways because they look really nice, but it's definitely worth the added detail to trade off for the plastic build. And now that's actually all from TrainzXtreme.